Well, welcome. In this video, we'll cover an introduction to levels. So this is just going to be one form of levels. It's going to be a quick introduction. And we actually talked about some of this in the den today. Someone asked a question, and then I kind of expanded quite a bit about where Bitcoin's at right now and how to look at these levels. And really the only two important levels on here that you need to be mindful of. So that's what we'll cover in this video. I just want to make sure that what we discussed in the den was very clear. And this is a good introduction to levels. So when we talk about levels, that's obviously we have the RexDog system on here, the foundation. We have anchored VWAPs, a lot of anchored VWAPs. And all of these that are coming from higher are coming from highs. So these are coming from recent highs or coming from important inflection highs up above. The ones that are from lower are obviously coming from lows. So here's the way to think about what's happening in Bitcoin as you see the chart right now. Now it is 1828. So we're about a half hour from the close for the day, because it closes at 1900 here, my time. So there's two important levels here, and I stress, and I said this and I mean it. These two levels are the only levels you need to really care about at this point in time, and you will get more detail in further training videos why these are important. It should be obvious for someone that's been trading a while, but this level here. So these candles here, as I scroll in, make it just a little bit bigger. And I know this is a messy chart, so let's get rid of this. So this level here, what do we know in the RexDog system? That's showing intention. What is the intention it's showing? It's showing that it wants to go higher. That's all we need is a close above there. One close above there, that's intention. Now there wasn't follow through, so it's not high intention, but it's showing you some intention. Now, the other close that is really important, the only other thing you need to look at on this chart, really, and this aligns with another key level, is here. There's a open or a close of a day there, and an open of a day, and the weekly open. So these two levels, literally, on the chart right now are the only ones that matter. They're the only ones that matter. A close below this level on a lower time frame should signal to you that my upside momentum, the thesis that this is a signal that it wants to go higher, is no longer valid. A close on a lower time frame, a close on a daily time frame should definitely tell you that. And we're talking probabilities here. It's not 100%. I don't know the exact percent. I should get the exact percent, but it's a high percent, 80% at least. It closes below here. On a lower time frame, let's say the hour, and then the algorithm changes on the hour and lower time frames, you should already probably been short up here anyways, but you should be short. A close above this level here signals that the thesis is probably correct for the next target that you would target in the RexDog system. So a close above, number one, that would be a close above the 200 again, and it would be a close above these key levels. Remember, these aren't exact levels, but they're an area, and the area is pretty tight, so it's not a wide area, but it's this pretty close area. A close about that. So this is the only two things you need to really be watching if you're trading the daily time frame, and any other time frame, because the daily plays such a big factor. I want to cover something here very important as well. Let's look at what Bitcoin has to contend with. Just imagine you're Bitcoin and you're basically a fighter. You're a heavyweight fighter. And maybe you've had, well, how many rounds here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we're in the 7th round. We're in the 7th round and we're pretty beat. We are pretty beat. We've been beaten pretty bad. What does Bitcoin have to contend with to get to any upside target at this point in time? Well, the first thing you already see, the first momentum rejection, it has to get past that. We know that on a lower time frame. So that's right here. So you know what that is. Next, it's got an anchored VWAP from a higher level, which tells you that a lot of traders in these ranges, this is their quote unquote basis. Not the best way to look at it, but it's the way we're going to look at it for now until we get deeper into that. It's got another anchored VWAP it has to contend with. It has another anchored VWAP it has to contend with. It has, and we haven't added this officially to the RexDog trading system yet, but this little yellow line that we see here, I know it's hard to see, is an ATR band of the RDA. And that is increasingly, as we're back testing it, looking to be an important aspect, and that's the lower ATR band. So it is looking to be another important bias aspect to something we can trade around with high probability, which is awesome. I wish I would have had this a year ago. So here's the RDA. That's our target. The RDA is our target. You see this here? These are ATR band. These are ATR projections. This green line and this green line, this red line and this red line. These are ATR projections. So if it does have upside momentum, and it would have to have a lot of upside momentum to break through these key areas, because you are seeing a lot of things align here. But and a lot of times in the market, for it to do that, it actually literally will just do that. It will just have so much upside pressure or buyers that it will just break through all this. You'll see that a lot. So a lot of times you'll start to feel that on a lower time frame. But literally right now in this moment, when we just talk about levels, just to stay focused on levels, there's two levels on this chart from us. This is breaking things down into simplicity. We haven't talked about the wicks. We haven't talked about stopping volume. And I said this in the den. That's important. It will inform your trading, but it's probably 20% of what matters at this point in time. The 80% that matters, and you could just trade with this 80%, you're going to be wildly successful, is this level here and this level here. Now you get more details on how to define these levels. The next level that's really important is here. This is a pretty important level, this area right here. This breakdown candle. It's a pretty important level. It's already been tested a few times. Tested there, almost tested there. That's an important level. So not only does BTC have to contend with all this, it has to contend with this important level. So, but if you are trading off the day time frame, and I mentioned this in the den as well, is this a good trade entry? Is this a good trade entry area where we're at right now? Because what could happen into the close? It could easily just as rip up as it could just roll over at this point in time. It's 50-50. If we look at this here and we just take simple measurement, we're almost smack dab at 50%. I know it's hard to read, so I'm going to try to make it easier to read so that you can clearly see. We are almost smack dab 50-50. I mean, we're a little above, but we're almost smack dab 50-50 of this range, of this important level and this important level. I bet if we use this upper important level, we're probably right at 50-50. No, we're actually a little below 50-50. Bottom line, what is this trade? This trade is a fade long. It's not with momentum. It's a fade long. So on fade longs, on fade any trade, your probability is lower on fades. And you need to be careful with your entries. You need to be careful. You need to have the best entry on a fade. On a fade, typically, on the end of a momentum trade, of course, you can have bad entries and it will hurt you. But on a fade, especially, just about every time you need to have great entries. So on this here, if we just use the levels we should be using, it's 50-50 right now whether or not it's going to roll over and just come down here and maybe test this low. It could do that on the close. It could roll over, test this low, and then break up. Because the lows have been protected, so have the highs. So both have been protected, but those don't matter. Those literally don't matter. Because if you're going to trade these lows, this is the way to look at it. I'm just advancing the levels conversation a little bit. If you're trading the daily and you're trading these lows, you have to drop down to a lower time level to trade these lows. Because you have no information other than this low here that was already broken on a previous day. So if you're trading the daily and you're going to use this low as some type of entry without any dropping down to some lower time frame to see if the algorithm or the hidden hand of the market has changed, you're kind of guessing. Because at the daily time frame right here, the only low that has a high probability that you want to fade is this one right here. That's the only low level that has a high probability of fade and reaction. All these other areas, because of how the chart is set up and how things are, and the story of the chart, that area, below that area, there will be a scalp reaction. You'll be probably able to scalp off that area. So there'll be scalps reactions. But the probability of a high fade daily trade opportunity is low. Your highest fade daily trade opportunity is down here. Means you got to be patient. And if it's going down here, there's a high probability it's going to 20K. That's kind of been my downside target. So really, should your mind, if it closes below this level, if it tests this level, let's say on the close or even the next day, it comes down, tests this level, and then bounces up here and closes up here. Well, you still got your important levels. The levels are still there. But if it closes down here, should you be thinking fade? Is that really the best trade you should be thinking about? I mean, you might take it if it comes up. Because obviously in the market, I've said this before, the bias is always long because most people, the majority of people that trade only know how to trade long or only know how to think long. Even though if they short here and there, they only know how to think long. So when you get to this, yeah, you do have a built-in bias of long, but that doesn't, I mean, you know how things, when they sell, people just hit the sell button and they panic. That's why things sell off so quick. So really, should you be thinking fade here? Yeah, if you see the opportunity, but really you should be thinking at this point in time when you're below the RDA and until it's proven that it wants to maybe get into that algorithm switch mode, you need to go with what the chart says and go with the momentum. Now, we all know that can change in one bar with Bitcoin, but it's also being mindful of the market you're trading. But at this point in time, and I might even pause the video because we're 20 minutes away from the close and maybe give it a half hour after the close and just see what happens. And then we can further talk about levels there. But I don't want this to be a long video. It's going to be underneath 15, 20 minutes. So I'll pause the video and I'll come back after the close. Okay, it's 18:55. We're 5 minutes from the close. I thought we could also, in addition to just seeing what the end of close or end of day action and beginning of day action looks like, we can actually look at ETH and look at this in the same kind of way. What do we see on ETH? Obviously the same kind of chart. See that immediately. Hopefully by now in the RexDog system, the chart's loading up, and probably about now, or maybe I'll give you another 5 to 10 seconds to look at the chart, that you clearly see where your bias should be and where key things are happening. Now, the ETH chart looks a little different, but about the same, does it not? We have the same key levels here, and we have a weekly open and close, and a day open and close, and a weekly open right here. So we have the same thing. So we're in the same type of scenario. And if we look at the upside of ETH, it's similar in our fighter scenario. It's a little better off in some aspects, because what is one important thing that we see on this chart that is different from BTC? Well, you should be looking down here, which is like we're above the 200. So the ETH so far has held the 200. The other thing you should be looking at too, which should be obvious, but you don't even know where that starts, is that anchored VWAP. That anchored VWAP and the rejection there from this, it's all the way from 24 December 20. This anchored VWAP is from 24 December 20. And that level, I mean, I was buying here too. I'm in here. I'm in this level. As soon as it broke below 2,000 and kept going down, I would have bought all the way to the 200 and below the 200. So I would have been buying all the way through here if it would have, and it did. We did break here. I don't think I was around for this opportunity though. I wasn't around for this opportunity. But here I was buying. And then and when it recently, actually that was yesterday. No, it wasn't yesterday. It was 2 days ago. I bought some more below 2,000. I think it was the middle of the night too. I think I couldn't sleep. I just woke up and just, I haven't turned off certain alerts on my phone. So certain apps still kind of alert me. So every now and then it kind of wakes me up and I look at it. And I think it was like 1928 or something. I don't remember what it was, but it was like 1928. And I said, you know what? That's a pretty good, that's below 2,000. Let me just buy some more. So we're in the same levels. This is why you can literally look at the same thing. Now, in major cryptos, you're going to see the same thing. If we go to EOS, we're probably going to say maybe, let's see, EOS USD. Let's do Coinbase, I guess. Fine. We're seeing the same type of pattern. That's why it literally doesn't really matter what you trade in crypto. I would prefer to trade ETH and BTC just because it's the ones that are the biggest and the ones that have the most clout. But you can see the same patterns here. We have a little bit different setup. And this is why you can trade these other ones based on the RexDog system. And the same rules will apply and it'll obey the same rules. Even though the chart patterns look very similar, but your main indicators that we use in the RexDog system, they are different here, aren't they? They're in different places. They're in different areas. So the chart setup is different. So a lot of times you can see divergence and can see better opportunities by looking at these and then trading these a little bit different than you're trading Bitcoin. Even though the chart pattern looks the same, where they're going to give you fade opportunities or momentum opportunities are the same. So we are at 659. Let's go back to BTC. And I didn't really want to start until after, but I figured I could show a couple different charts and kind of show how it's almost the same in these other charts. Let's drop down a lower time frame. Let's remove this so we can actually just watch what happens. A lot of times, this is, in some ways, the end-of-day action, it's not quite as valuable as what happens in the equity market and the futures market when the market's open and that initial balance. So if you're familiar with TPO and that thinking, the initial balance is pretty important. It still does play a role in the equity and the futures market. And I consider this close in the open here to be somewhat of the initial balance, but it's not as, I don't see it as it doesn't play as a big a role I see, at least in just me watching it as much as I have, as it does in the equities and futures market. That initial balance you can really trade around, you can really rely upon on key levels in the equity and the futures market. In the kind of crypto market, and it's one thing that actually, as I'm just talking through this, it's one thing that actually, as I kind of started trading the futures market a lot more and really made that kind of some of my core focus, I appreciated a kind of standard 9 to 5 day and the weekends being off. Of course, you can turn off crypto, but a lot of times if there's downside momentum in crypto, it's going to continue into the weekend. So a lot of times if you're serious about trading crypto and there's downside momentum into the week, it continues into the weekend. Well, you just, for a while there, in the rise, it was the Saturday to Sunday night was just, it was high volatility, but it corrected itself by Sunday morning. But now with obviously the sell-off and when things go bearish, that momentum carries on the weekend. So it's really, you don't kind of get a break if you're, it depends on how you're trading, but sometimes you could not get a full break, and I kind of appreciated the weekend off. So this crypto 24 hours, I know a lot of markets are trying to do 24 hours. It's kind of nice to have that break. It does let you refresh. So what are we seeing? Let's talk about what we're really seeing here, because there's not much for me to, and I'll end the video because there's not much really to talk about. We didn't see a huge rip up. We didn't see a huge rip down. Pretty much the market is interpreting right now, at least the initial opening action of the first 3 minutes, is basically interpreting this as here's the way I describe this, and the market is doing what it should do. Now, you might say, that's a weird way, that probably is different than from how I say things a lot, because you shouldn't be framing the market. But as you get more experience with the market, I know some of you have a lot of experience in different markets, but as you get more experience, you'll start to realize that the market, because there is a level of professionals out there that are, I'm guessing now, but I trade at a professional elite level. So I look at the market and I have an expectation of what it should do. And when it doesn't do certain things, that's when I pay attention. That's when professionals pay attention. When it's supposed to do something, a good example of that, and I've said this before, is that if there's a gap and it goes up and it doesn't fully fill the gap and it turns around, that's something you should pay attention to, because the market should have filled the gap. Everybody in the world knows that. It didn't fill the gap. The market didn't do something it was supposed to do. Right now, the market is behaving as you would expect with this close in the middle of two important levels with tremendous upside challenges. It's 50-50. 50-50, it could rip down. 50-50, it could stair step up in the algorithm for the rest of the night. As we know with the RexDog Trading System, the algorithm for the rest of the night on a lower time frame. Let's go to the 1 minute. This algorithm that's in place right now, as we see the switch over, as we all clearly see the switch over, could stay in place for the next 4 hours. That algorithm could stay in place. The hidden hand on the market. This might have been a good fade trade of the high, but I'm not scalping it right now. So I'm going to end this video because the only way I would have continued this video is if we would have saw some kind of strong reaction here that would have told us, hey, that whatever in the market, whoever's participating at this time on the close, and maybe algorithms and who knows what else, looked at that close and said, that's the signal I needed to continue long. Or that's the signal that I needed to say we need to rip down. You'll see that sometimes. Right now, the market's kind of behaving what you would expect with that close, especially with the key levels. Once again, I'm going to go back and want to end the video with where we started. Did we get any additional information about what's going to happen? No. We got no additional information. So what is the trade here? The high probability trade at this point in time in the daily is to do nothing unless you're in a trade where you're already profitable. If you're not profitable, you should be managing the trade and figuring out what you need to do. But at this point in time, if you're not in the trade, drop down at a lower time frame and trade if that's what you like to do, or you have the opportunity to. That's the only opportunity at this point in time. There's no opportunity on the daily because you're 50-50 at this point in time. So you don't have any additional information in the middle of a range. And I'm making this video a little bit longer just to reinforce things you've already learned in the training, to reinforce a lot of things that we've already covered, because I think repetition is important. So if you are trading the daily time frame, you haven't got any new information. From an entry perspective in the RexDog Trading System, and the one that you're adopting from the RexDog Trading System as the foundation, your trading system that you're creating from the foundation of the RexDog Trading System, this is a terrible entry from the daily time frame. You might be right that it's going to go up, but from a probability perspective of where we're at in the chart and entering either a long or short, I tend to see more short opportunity here than a long opportunity. Why? Quite simply, where are we? We're momentum short. So where is my mind going to be thinking anyways? Momentum short. I'm not going to be momentum long. I will look at fades, but I'm not going to argue with the chart. The chart tells us right now we should be momentum short. There's various things on this chart from the RexDog system that's telling you be momentum short. especially the last day rejection where it rejected. You see that? Where it rejected? That last rejection, it could go test that same rejection area, and that would be a high probability short. But we should be thinking more momentum short based on the momentum of the chart. So hopefully not making this a little bit longer helps and kind of helps with repetition of a lot of the things you're learning in the system. But that's kind of where we're at right now. It does look like it wants to roll over, doesn't it? As I'm sitting here talking, it looks like it wants to roll over, but that's one 5-minute candle. It is almost a pay attention candle. If it closes below the RexDog average, what does that tell us? That tells us that's a pay attention candle. But the market's kind of doing what we expect here so far. One way I sometimes say this, it's kind of an orderly sell-off. You'll know when it's not an orderly sell-off, but this could turn into a non-orderly sell-off here pretty quick, especially if we get a close here on the 5-minute. And I'm just making this video longer. I did try. I literally did have the intention of making it 15 minutes. So we have the RexDog average there. And I think some of this real-time stuff does help. We obviously have important levels up here that it's breaking. This closing candle is 1 minute away from closing. Let's look at the algorithm on the 1 minute time frame. Well, what is the algorithm on the 1 minute time frame signaling? Should be pretty obvious. We do have that ATR band here. Let's see if it uses that to actually, let's put that level there. So it almost did use that as a place to just rip up. At this point in time, once again, this is kind of a meaningless time frame because we're so new into the new day that a lot of things are being positioned and being figured out. So while we are getting an RSI signal on this candle. And one of the things, and I'm going to be rolling this out as an additional trade. See this area here? I'm finding, and we're back testing this more. Red triangle, green triangle, red triangle. When that happens, the probability that this red triangle is the right signal and you should short, or whatever it is, because we could do it both ways. Let's look at this. That's the right direction. When we see that. Change over, change over, change over, right signal. Let's look at another. Once again, I don't know why I do this sometimes. I don't know why I just kind of like go off on tangents. I am excited about this additional thing to the RexDog system because it is something I've kind of had in my trading, but I don't have enough confidence, and I'll share with the den. So what do we see here? Real simple. We see a green triangle, red triangle, green triangle. So and you could do this too. Green triangle, red triangle, green triangle. Switch over momentum area. Green triangle, red triangle, green triangle. Momentum's right. Bam. Especially when it's aligning with other RexDog systems. So it's not just this single one. The single ones at highs is good. But these green triangles you see up here is just indicating that it's above the weekly open. So on any time frame, when you see these green triangles up here, I have that. That's an indicator I've released. So you'll find that it's free. It's like called weekly open or something, or weekly levels. I don't know what it's called. But this just signifies that we're above the weekly open. So this is one that I'll be working on. Like I said, there's so many trade opportunities in the RexDog trading system that you could overtrade, because there's so many trade opportunities in the system, and hopefully you're seeing it from fade to momentum to other signals, and when multiple signals align, I do suggest new traders, and I've said this, you take only the high probability ones, but as you get more experience with it and you build the system yourself and you start building it out, you're going to start saying that I have way too many trades to do. I need to whittle this down, because I can literally trade any chart, the same system, and I can literally like trade almost a fade and a momentum kind of at multiple times in some ways. It's like I said, that's not quite, I'm over exaggerating a little bit, but because you can force trades. But as you can see here, there's plenty of this. The multiple trade signals in this area alone told you to go long on the 5-minute time frame. just the multiple trade signals here. So here, we're kind of in a no trade zone if we weren't short up here. If we didn't short this high, which would have been a good fade just because it's a double top. So that's every novice trader knows that anyways. So that would have been, but there'd probably be other things that would align that you'd probably look at as well. But I'm going to end the video here because it's, who knows what it's going to do. So this is an introduction to levels plus additional future stuff that's going to be released video. Please leave feedback in the den. If something wasn't clear, once again, leave feedback in the den, ask questions, and I can obviously respond to you in the den, or I can do another video that makes it more clear and answers your specific question. All right, look forward to seeing you in the next video.